Welcome back from the ad break, and let's continue with our lesson. So we are going to be looking at that concept map again, where we are going to be moving on to our first point from verbal representation to the flow diagram. So let's look at the following flow diagram. Express the following statements into a flow diagram. So we've been given a statement and we need to use the statement so that we can fill out our flow diagram. As we can see in the flow diagram, we have the input values and we have the output values. So our statement there says 8 is added to a value. What value are we talking about? That would be the values that we have in our input. So far in our input side, we have a 3, a 5, and a 7. And those are the values that we are going to be using for our flow diagram. In the middle here would be what is happening to those values. And our statement says 8 is added to those values. So that is a plus 8. And we are going to add 8 to each of those values. So 3 plus 8, that gives us an output value of 11. Then we say 5 plus 8, and that would give us an output value of 13. And finally, we have the 7 plus 8, and that gives us an output value of 15. So those are the input values, and in the flow diagram there, we are given the output values. Let's look at the next one there. So in this next one, again, we have the input values, that is 1, 4, and 10. And then we are given an instruction by our statement what we need to do. So it says there a value is multiplied by 6. So what value are they talking about? Those would be our input values. And what is going to happen to those values? We are going to multiply them by 6. So let's look at the first input value. That is 1 multiplied by 6. And as an output, we have there a 6. Then we have 4 multiplied by 6. As an output value there, we have a 24. And then we have the 10 multiplied by 6. That gives us an output value of 60. So those are the input values and the output values. Let's look at more flow diagrams and see what we can do with them. So let's express the following statements into a flow diagram. Number 3 there says a number is divided by 2 and then 4 is added to the quotient. So again, when they say a number or a value, what are we talking about? We are talking about those input values. Again, we just have 3 input values there, a 2, a 6, and a 10. So what is the first action that happens there? We are going to divide by 2. And then that quotient that we get there, we are going to now add 4, and that is going to give us our output value. So let's get to it. That is 2 divided by 2. We know that gives us 1. And then when we add 4 to that, it is going to give us 5. What about 6? 6 divided by 2, that is 3. When we add 4, that is going to give us a 7. And then 10 divided by 2, that is a 5. And then when we add 4, that is going to give us a 9. So those are the output values there. Let's look at the next one. A value is multiplied by 5 and then 2 is subtracted from the product. So the value is first multiplied by 5 and then from that product we are going to subtract 2. So let's look at the input values because that's the value that we are talking about when we say a value. The first one there is a negative 2. Now negative 2 multiplied by 5, that is going to give us a negative 10. And when we go now and further subtract 2, that is going to give us a negative 12. What about the next one there? That is 0 multiplied by 5, that is 0. And when we subtract 2 from 0, that is going to be a negative 2. And then when we say a 3 multiplied by 5, that is 15. When we subtract 2, that is going to give us a 13. So there are the input values. We multiplied by 5, we subtracted 2, and that gave us those output values. Let's look at number 5. Now, in this case, it's a little tricky. There's been a twist here. So we are given a statement that we need to now change into a flow diagram. But this time, we are not given the input values. We are given the output values. So a number is multiplied by 2, so that is a multiplied by 2, and then 7 is subtracted from that product. So from that product there, we need to now go and subtract our 7. But now we've been given the answer and we need to find that input value. How are we going to achieve this? Now, since as well we know that that number was first multiplied by 2 and then 7 was subtracted, we are going to work in reverse. So we are going to take the answer there and we are going to say, okay, from 1, we know that the action that was taken before we had our answer 1 is that 7 was subtracted. So we are going to now add the 7. So when we take 1 and we add the 7, that is going to give us an 8. So from this 8, we know that before we had the 8, a number was multiplied by 2. So what number was multiplied by 2 and then the answer was 8? If you are thinking of 4, then you are absolutely correct. And just to make sure that you have the correct input value, go through the flow diagram and check if your answer is correct. So 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, and when we subtract 7, we get 1. So that means that we are absolutely correct in that input value. Let's go over to the next one. We have 7, and we are going to add 7 because we are working in reverse, and that is going to give us a 14. Now, what number do we multiply by 2? And the answer is 14. Are you thinking of 7? Because you are absolutely correct if that's the case. And just to check it, 7 multiplied by 2 is 14. And when we subtract 7, that is going to give us a 7. So that is absolutely correct there. And then the next one there, we have a 15. So from the 15, let's just add that 7 that was subtracted from that product. When we take 15 and we add 7, we get 22. So from 22, what is going to happen? What number is multiplied by 2 for us to get that 22? Yes, it is 11. You are absolutely correct. And those are the input values that we get from the given output values. Let's look at the next one. It says there a value is divided by 3 and then 1 is added. So that value is divided by 3. And then after that, we are going to add 1 to the quotient, not the product, but the quotient. So let's look at how that is going to work. Again, we are going to be working in reverse. So from 5, we know that for us to get 5 as an answer, 1 was added. So we are just going to subtract that 5. That is going to give us a 4. And then we know that for us to get 4, a value was divided by 3. So let's go on now and say, now what value is divided by 3? And then the answer is 4. Or if we are working in reverse, we can just say 4 multiplied by that 3. That is going to give us a 12. Let's check quickly if that's correct. 12 divided by 3, that is 4. And when we add 1, that is 5. So that answer is absolutely correct. Let's go over to the next one. We are going to take that 11, we are going to subtract 1, and that gives us 10. So when we have 10, now what value was divided by 3 for the answer to be 10? Are you thinking of 30? Because 30 divided by 3 is 10. And when we add 1, the answer will be an 11. Let's look at the last one. Therefore, our flow diagram, that is a 16. So when we take 16 and we subtract 1, that gives us a 15. Now what value is divided by 3 for the answer to be 15? Yes, it is 45. Now 45 divided by 3 is 15, and when we add 1, the answer is 16. So those are the input values that we got from that flow diagram or from the given output values. Let's quickly go to an ad break and then we'll see just now for the rest of our lesson.